I'm not the greatest at telling stories, so please bear with me as I recount one of the scariest moments of my life. A few years ago, when I was in high school, my best friend and I had a tradition of walking to the gas station near her house to grab snacks, usually some candy or ice cream. It was only about a 5-minute walk, and we'd done it a million times. One evening around 7 p.m., we decided to head out for some Ben & Jerry's, thinking it'd be a quick, fun trip like always. As we approached the gas station, we noticed a beat-up van parked off to the side of the lot, with 3 or 4 guys inside, probably in their late 20s. They were just sitting there, staring at us as we walked up. Their gazes felt heavy, almost predatory, and it sent a chill down my spine. Trying to shake it off, we walked into the gas station, but as we did, one of the guys climbed out of the van and followed us inside. My friend and I exchanged a quick glance, both sensing something was off. Inside, we tried to act normal, wandering the aisles to pick out our ice cream, but the guy from the van was shadowing us. Every time we moved to a new aisle, he'd appear on the other side, pretending to browse, but clearly watching us. When we'd look his way, he'd quickly turn his head, acting like he was reading a chip bag or something. My heart started racing, and I whispered to my friend, "This guy's creeping me out. Let's grab our stuff and go." She nodded, but we were both rattled. As we headed to the counter to pay, things took a turn for the worse. The guy suddenly stepped closer, blocking the narrow aisle to the cashier. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there, staring with this unsettling smirk. My friend, who's never one to take crap from anyone, said loudly, "Excuse me, we're trying to check out." That's when he finally spoke, his voice low and creepy. "No need to rush, girls. Why don't you hang out with us for a bit?" I froze, clutching my ice cream so hard the container started to dent. Outside, I could see the other guys from the van getting out, slowly walking toward the entrance. My friend, trying to keep her cool, snapped back. "We're not interested. Move." That's when his smirk vanished and he stepped even closer, saying, "Don't be like that. You don't want to make this hard." My stomach dropped. I could hear the door chime as the other guys entered the store, their footsteps heavy on the tile floor. Panic hit us like a wave. The cashier, a bored-looking older guy, seemed oblivious, just ringing up our ice cream painfully slowly. I glanced at my friend, and we both knew we had to get out. She grabbed my arm, and we pushed past the guy, practically throwing our money at the cashier. But as we turned to leave, the other guys from the van were blocking the exit, standing shoulder to shoulder like a wall. One of them said, "Come on, let's have some fun. We got a nice van outside." My friend, bold as ever, flipped them off and yelled, "Back off!" That was a mistake. The guy from the aisle grabbed my friend's wrist, and I screamed, dropping my ice cream as I tried to pull her away. The cashier finally looked up and shouted, "Hey, take it outside," which was the worst thing he could have said. The guys laughed, but the one holding my friend tightened his grip, saying, "You're coming with us." My heart was pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. I don't know how we did it, but my friend yanked her arm free, and we bolted toward the back of the store, where there was a small hallway with an employees-only door. We ducked into the hallway, hearts racing, and pushed against the door, praying it wasn't locked. Miraculously, it opened, leading to a cluttered storage room. We slammed it shut behind us and crouched behind a stack of boxes, trying to stay silent. Outside, we heard the guys yelling, their voices muffled but angry, like they were searching the store. The cashier was arguing with them, telling them to leave, but it didn't sound like he was in control. After what felt like an eternity, we heard the door chime again, and the sound of the van's engine revving outside. They were leaving. We waited a few more minutes, trembling, before creeping out. The cashier, now looking shaken himself, said the guys had left but told us to be more careful next time. We ran the whole way back to my friend's house, locking the door behind us and collapsing in tears, too freaked out to even care about the melted ice cream I'd left on the gas station floor. We never went back to that gas station after dark. A few years ago, I was working at a gas station near my place. I was in my late 20s and, just trying to make ends meet. It was a pretty standard job, mostly just selling snacks and gas to folks from the warehouses nearby. It got kind of crazy during shift changes, but for the most part, it was a pretty easy gig. One slow Wednesday morning, I was working by myself. My coworker had called in sick, but I wasn't worried at all. The place was quiet and cozy, just the usual stream of people grabbing coffee and chips. Then, this big semi-truck pulls into the lot. It parks way over to the side, which was a little weird, since we didn't even have diesel. I figured the driver just needed a drink or a bathroom break. This guy walks in. He's tall, kind of scruffy looking, and carrying a big metal travel mug. He seemed normal enough at first, just asking if the coffee was fresh. He fills his mug, comes up to pay, and starts chatting. He tells me he's making a delivery to one of the nearby warehouses and asks for directions. I give him the easiest route, no big deal. But then he just doesn't leave. He keeps standing there, sipping his coffee, talking about his trip and where he's from. It was getting a little awkward, and I just wanted him to go. Then he asks where the restroom is. I point to the back, hoping that'll be his cue to finally leave, but he just keeps talking. I started feeling super uneasy. A few minutes later, he asks about the restroom again, but still doesn't move. His eyes are just kind of lingering on me, and I'm getting a really bad feeling. When the store was empty, he asks if I'm working alone. My heart totally dropped. I lied and said my coworker was just in the back, getting some supplies. He just gave me this slow nod like he knew I was lying. He ended up hanging around for a good 20 minutes, walking up and down the aisles, picking stuff up, but not actually buying anything. And get this, every time a customer came in, he'd hide behind a shelf. My hands were getting all sweaty, and I was just praying for someone I knew to show up. I was trying not to freak out, but something was seriously wrong. Just when I thought I was screwed, I saw Joe, a regular from the warehouse, pulling up to the pump. He always came in for a soda and a candy bar. When he came inside, I tried to keep him talking, asking him all kinds of questions. I kept trying to subtly point my head toward the creepy guy, who was now lurking near the drink cooler. Joe didn't get it at first, but as he was walking out, I mouthed the word, "Help." Joe stopped dead in his tracks, turned back, and finally saw the guy. He walked back in and quietly asked if I was okay. I whispered, "No." The creepy guy started walking over, pretending to look at the chip display. Joe didn't hesitate. He walked right up to him and, in a super loud and firm voice, just told him to leave. The guy grabbed his mug, ran to his truck, and just peeled out of there. Joe stayed with me while I called the cops. I told them everything. What the guy looked like, his truck, all the weird questions. My coworker came in to take over, and the cops took my statement. Later, an officer came back with some wild news. They'd caught the guy on the highway, driving like crazy. His truck was totally empty, like he didn't have a payload he claimed he was delivery. They found a rope and a pistol in his cab, and it turns out he had a warrant for violating parole after a robbery charge. And the officer also added that the guy has also served years in prison for raping 2 girls in Kentucky before. After my band finished a show in Columbus, Ohio, we were all completely beat and just trying to make it to our guitarist Mike's place to crash for the night. We were driving down this big road, probably Dublin Granville, when I realized my throat was raw from singing and I was desperately thirsty for a bottle of water. I've always been picky about water ever since I got sick from the gross tap water at my parents' house, so bottled water is really my only option. I spotted a Speedway gas station up ahead and thought it would be a perfect quick stop, so I called Mike, who was driving in front of me, to let him know I was pulling over. He immediately warned me not to, saying that place gets really sketchy at night and that I should just wait until we got to his place where there was a better store nearby. But because I was dying of thirst, I just waved him off and pulled into the Speedway parking lot anyway. Immediately I drove in. I should have taken the hint from the two cops standing by their car out front and the cashier who was working behind a thick pane of bulletproof glass. Despite the bad feeling I was getting, I was already there. So I decided to go inside. The store was almost empty except for me and one other guy, who was browsing the energy drinks. So I quickly grabbed my water, some chips, and a candy bar before heading to the register. Just as I was about to pay, the door suddenly flew open, and this guy and girl came running inside. The girl immediately bolted to the back of the store, grabbed a huge jug of milk, and started dumping it all over her head in a panic, splashing milk everywhere, on her face, in her hair, all over the floor, while she freaked out and cried. I was just standing there, completely confused, still holding my water and wondering what was happening. Then the guy pulled out a gun and shot a hole in the ceiling, creating a deafening boom that left my ears ringing as dust and debris rained down on us. He started yelling that his girl needed milk and that nobody had to get hurt if they just let her have it. I stood frozen with my heart pounding until the other customer dropped his drink with a loud thud, which snapped me back to reality. Outside, one of the cops already had his gun drawn and pointed at the guy through the door, shouting for him to drop his weapon right now, while the other cop called for backup on his radio. The guy hesitated for a second before finally dropping the gun and getting on the ground, allowing the first cop to rush in, tackle him, and pin him down hard. Meanwhile, the girl was still in the back, soaked in milk and now screaming and crying about her friend getting arrested, until the second cop grabbed her in a bear hug to try and calm her down. The cop holding the guy down then looked right at me and the other customer and told us sharply to get out of there now. I didn't argue at all. I just threw a $10 bill on the counter, which was way too much for my stuff, grabbed my snacks, and ran out to my car before peeling out of the parking lot, still shaking from the adrenaline. When I finally got to Mike's place, he was waiting outside with a big grin already on his face, like he knew exactly how it went, and he asked, "So, how was your quick stop?" I just muttered, "You suck," as I pushed past him, and once we were inside, I told him the whole story over a couple of beers. I told him about the milk, the gunshot, and the cops. He laughed so hard he almost choked before saying, "I told you, man, that place is wild at night." I still don't know what was really going on with the milk, though someone online later suggested that maybe the girl had been pepper sprayed and used the milk to help with the sting, which kind of makes sense but still doesn't make it any less weird. After that night, I promised myself I'm never stopping at a gas station that late again, and I really should have just listened to Mike from the start.